So this is a story that really not a lot of people have heard. You know, it's MTV, first of all, wasn't even involved in the beginning.
Okay.
A producer came to me. His name was Rick Hurwitz. He's like, we've been trying to shoot this pilot for this concept of the show we want to do, but we can't find anywhere around town that can do everything under one place. Like, we don't have a big budget, and we don't have a lot of time. I'm like, great.
Not
check
no money.
all the wrong boxes, right? But I'm like, okay, well, what is it? He's like, well, we want to do this show, and you know, it's basically like a car makeover show, and you know, it's like taking this old car and making it nice. And it's like, by the looks of what you guys do here, like, you can do everything. You do paint, you do interior, you do audio, you do it all.
Back to having it under one roof.
I'm like, yeah, we do. He's like, so the show, we want to call it Pimp My Ride.
I'm Tom Ward, and over the last couple years, I've had the chance to sit down with some of the biggest celebrities and influencers in the world. What I've always found most fascinating is the stories of the businesses that they've built behind the scenes. On this show, you'll get an inside look of what it takes to build a successful business from some of the biggest celebrities, business people, and up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the world. This is The Tom Ward Show.
Welcome to The Tom Ward Show, where I talk to the biggest entrepreneurs in the world, and we have such a guy, Ryan Friedlinghaus. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Perfect.
I obsessed over that. I can't screw up your name right off the bat. This is my second time here, and just walking around is so wild, even if you're not a car guy. Like, there's Bugattis. Last time I was here, there was a Barbie truck you were working on for Mattel.
I mean, I like to say this is the Disneyland for car people.
100%.
You know, when you come here, it's an experience from when you walk in the door to when you leave.
Yeah.
And that's what I really created. It's taken me now about 30 years to get to this point, but we're here. and I feel like you get to see really what my world's all about. It's
a pretty good world to be in, it sounds like.
It's fun. You know, there's always obviously tons and tons of challenges.
Of course.
But
which we'll talk about.
Yeah, it's just, you know, this is what I love. I still wake up every day and, you know, I want to come to work. A lot of people don't feel that way. They just go to work to get a paycheck and leave.
I think most people are like that.
Yeah.
You know, I did that for years, just grinding it out, hating the job every day. And, you know, you got responsibilities, you got to get that check. And I think that's where a lot of people are. It's like, it truly is a blessing to be able to do it.
Yeah, I feel like I tell people that all the time is like I get to wake up and do what I enjoy every day of my life. Like, that's my blessing.
Yeah. You know? And I love your origin story because you were doing this literally your whole life. I didn't understand. I do a lot of prep for these things. And the thing that kept coming up over and over again with you was he was on the cover of magazines at 14 years old. Now, how the does that happen? I mean, did you start working on cars when you were 10?
No, I mean, I think in my head, right?
Yeah, okay.
I did. One of my I guess things I say that I'm really good at is I have a vision.
Okay.
You know, I can see something, whether it's a car or a space or whatever it is, and I visually see things the way I want them. And as a kid, you know, I would see bikes and skateboards and all these things my mom would tell me all the time. Is like, I would buy you something and you would take it apart and put it back together.
You were that kid.
But different. And it's like, I think that's really where it all started, you know, and I have a creative bloodline somehow, some way, you know. So it's really great to be able to have a brand like this and a platform to be able to build everybody around me in their own space.
Are your kids involved too, or are they going to take the business over someday?
I mean, that was honestly what I was hoping for. You know, as a father, you're like, oh, my firstborn son's going to take over my business. Not going to happen.
Yeah, usually it doesn't work out like that.
But he has taken the vision that I have and put it into clothing. That my son Ryan and my son Dylan's into the music space, and my daughter's super artistic. So I feel they're all going to find their place in this crazy world we live in. And I'm able to help them, you know, using my platform.
You know what, and I was going to talk about this later, but it's a good segue. You're super passionate about bringing young people into the business. And we were talking before, it's wild because my dad was in the automotive business. I was in it for years. And I don't think the average person watching this, the young aspiring entrepreneurs that's watching this, they don't realize, and most people don't realize, that in some medium-sized town in Iowa, the guy with a 6-bay repair shop is a multi-millionaire. And they just think he's some old guy with grease on his shirt.
This is dirty guy building
some
cars.
Dirty dude.
Yeah, but no, I mean, that's one of my passions. Like I told you before, is like bringing the youth into this industry is so needed. I mean, it's now fast forward to where we are today, it's like super needed. You know, when I started out with the mission in 2016 to like figure out how do I build a West Coast Customs Academy, you know, like I did that because I was doing franchising at the time and I had all these shops all over the world, but they wanted my guys. And I'm like, I don't have enough guys to do what I need to do here. I can't send people over there, my team. How do I build how do I build another team that I can deploy into, you know, foreign countries to build West Coast Customs cars? And I started just thinking of like, well, let's build a school that's cool. You know, I think that's one of the things that's not out there. And, you know,
what's the current school? I don't know anything about this. What's the current, if somebody wants to get in the body shop or customization,
so you
what do
have
they do?
Biotech, UTI, there's schools like that are nationwide that, you know, prepare kids to get into this industry. But as somebody that's been a part of it for so long, I've hired kids from there and they don't really know a lot. You know, it's very textbook driven. They're not working on actual cars. So when I set out to do this, I'm like, I'm going to do it completely opposite. There is no books. I didn't learn from a book. Like you learn from hands-on figuring it out. Like
that kid's not learning how to put a pool in a VW microbus
exactly.
in the textbook.
Exactly.
You got to figure that
You
stuff out.
got to figure it out. And these brands that come to us with these crazy ideas, you know, we have to figure out how to do it. It's never been done before. That you can't look back and be like, well, how did that guy do it? Mm-hmm. It's like we end up doing things once, crazy, but then we never do it again. And we move on to the next one. And that's where I think the teaching and the learning from West Coast Customs Academy is going to really help these kids to grow in this industry, is because we're going to challenge them in crazy different ways than read this and this is how you weld and this is how you unscrew a bolt. Like, no. Here's your car, here's your canvas, here's your team. You guys have to build this. Mm-hmm. And then you can step back every day and look at your accomplishment. I think that's important.
Well, there was no school and there was no really, I was curious about, so you're 14. First of all, what kind of cars are you getting in magazines? What are you doing at the time? What are you into?
I mean, I was heavy into the mini truck scene back then.
Okay.
So I was working for, it's crazy to like look back at it now, but I was working for a guy, we lived in Las Vegas at the time. I was working for this guy in his body shop and he was like my mentor. Fast forward to 4 years ago, like he's working for me now. So it's like looking at that is like I was mentoring for him in his shop and he built custom cars and he was like one of those guys that, you know, took 2 years to build cars. Customers are mad. And I'm like feeling all this before I like even thought about West Coast Customs, right?
These are the headaches that could be in the future.
And then, so maybe I was like already introduced to those headaches and that's why maybe I figure out, you know, I always tell people there's no problems, there's solutions. There's always a solution to a problem. And, he mentored me in a way where it made this was something I wanted to do, you know, and I grew that. And as I got older and realized like, okay, this is a real business, but I had auto shop and wood shop. And that's where I like to take a pause when I talk to people and I'm like, you look at the schools now, there is no auto shop, there is no wood shop.
That's how my dad got started in high school.
And that's what really gave me the vision of like, this is a real job. This could be something. Mm-hmm. And I look at like my kids when they went to high school and it's like there's like technology, there's tons of technology stuff. Now everybody thinks on their device, that's how I'm gonna make my living, which lots of people do, and it, like hats down to them. But for our industry, it's dying. We have no new talent. We have no new kids that want to come into this industry and build with their hands.
Yeah.
So that's really my passion. You know, that's where I'm going. That's my passion. That's the look forward vision of West Coast Customs.
I think that's excellent, giving back, and we'll talk more about that later. So when you're 14, what's the landscape at the time? Because Pimp My Ride, which we'll talk about, changed the game. And it seems like after that, everybody had a rim shop, everybody had a customization shop. But back then, was it more like, okay, I'm a body shop and I'm doing insurance work and I'm replacing bumpers on Camrys, and once in a while I work on this cool stuff on the side that's going to take a year? Or were there dedicated people doing, you know, customizations on cool cars?
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, mm-hmm. that was what I found, right? This guy Bruce Johnson that I worked for, like that was what he did. But what I did was I was working in my garage. You know, I built my first mini truck in my garage at my house, where, you know, we lived in a nice neighborhood in Las Vegas, and it was like the neighbors are like complaining because I'm spraying primer in the driveway, you know, in this crazy multi-million-dollar neighborhood. But I'm like, it's not what, and I didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. I learned some stuff when I was working with him. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And, you know, I got a job at Pep Boys, and I was buying parts and doing things. And it really just, it allowed me to build that vision of what I had in my head of what I wanted this truck to look like at the time. And I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it in my own way with my own tools and my own, you know, vision.
When you say, just going back, you said when you were 14, you had this thing you wanted to figure out, and you mentioned specific cars you wanted to figure out, right? And you also said you wanted to make it. That 14-year-old Ryan, what did making it look like? What was the vision? Did you have this vision when you were 14?
No, absolutely not. I mean, my vision was just really what was in front of me at the time, right? Okay. I had a brown Mazda long bed truck. And it was like, I want to make this look like this. And fast forward to today, the kids are recreating that truck that I built in my garage in the academy.
That is cool. Is that like a gift to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a gift to me in a weird way, but it's also like, it's something that's so important to me, and this academy is so important to me. I want them to build this for their first project that's going to come out these doors. And like, I'm taking them through those steps on almost like how I did it. You know, of course we have tools and we have all these crazy stuff now, but it's giving them this experience that you can't buy.
You're having them do exactly what you did. This is the first, literally, this is the first car I worked on, or first truck. You're gonna do the same exact thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I feel like they're gonna leave this program with, not only they learned a whole bunch and they feel comfortable now working around the shop, but they're able to like say, I was a part of building Ryan's first truck that he ever built himself, and we did it with him.
That's cool. Now let's talk business. So you've got this vision, you're good at it. Okay, so are a lot of people, but they don't have this. Okay, so there's something different obviously about you and your DNA, but you started with a $5,000 loan from your grandfather, is that right?
Yep.
So how old are you at the time?
I don't even, 19 maybe.
Okay.
18,
so you're still
19.
a young kind of kid.
Yeah. So my dad had a liquor store in Laguna Niguel.
Okay.
So I ran his liquor store during the day, and I still had I was building trucks, and I would send them here and this place and these guys, and so I was overseeing these things being built, but it wasn't in my shop. So I said, I need to get a shop, and I talked to my grandpa, and I was like, this is what I want to do, and he's lived with me since I was young, right? So he was like my number one cheerleader. Like everything I would do, he would look at me crazy, but he would support me.
Yeah.
And this was one of those ones where I was like, I want to get the shop. It's right down the street, so I can work during the day, and then I can go there at night, and I can like start building what I want to build. So he gave me that money and gave me that opportunity to rent my first place, and you know, I started setting it up. And my vision, of course, when I'm trying to set things up, is way further than what I really have in my bank account.
Yeah.
But I continued to I pushed that vision. I built West Coast Custom. At the time, it was West Coast Auto Trends.
Okay.
And that was the first time that, you know, where I started back when we were in Vegas and I was working in my garage, I had a little hip hop shop that I did in the swap meet. So I built this little store because I had a big passion with graffiti art. Like, I love graffiti art. I loved everything.
And you
about
could tell too. We'll get some shots.
Yeah, and it's
here.
like, but nobody understood it, right? And I was like one of those ones. I couldn't do it. I'm not an artist by trade, but it was like something that I just really, really was interested in since I was young. So I built this little shop that I would drive down here from Vegas and buy clothes from Tribal and Third Rail before those guys were even big, and I would take them back and I would sell them in the swap meet. And it was like, that was my hustle to get money so I could build what I wanted to build, you know? But it was always a part of my mission. So when I opened this shop in Laguna Niguel, like, I brought one of my graffiti artists that I was friends with in Vegas out to paint my sign on my building. Now, when I did that, I swear to you, the city of Laguna Niguel, everybody thought I was like, he can't do that. That's not right.
Yeah,
then I had him, I had him paint the whole inside of my shop. And that was in 94, 95. And you look now, you go down Melrose, you go down these streets, and like everybody has these shops that are graffiti. It's just, it's crazy just to see how the culture has changed. But I was always ahead of it. And the shop that I built was like, this is my first shop. This is what I want it to look like. This is my vision. And we started doing, you know, little work here and there. Wasn't nothing crazy. Laguna Niguel is very prominently a high-end city. People buy nice cars, but they don't really do things to them. So it was like, that was my foot in the door of like, it's right down the street. I lived right there. It worked.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to build up to where I, you know, met Big Dane.
So before we even get there, you got $5,000 from your grandfather. There's a shop I want.
There's like $1,200 a month or something.
Okay,
crazy.
so $1,200 is out the door. Do you have any customers lined up? So now you got
no, I had nothing.
A little money in the bank, but that's only going to pay your rent for the next couple months. You need revenue ASAP. Yesterday.
Yeah, I did. I spent a lot of money on at the time as a recycler. Paper, like where people would put their ads in and sell stuff. So it's like our Craigslist now that's digital, but it was called the Recycler. And I'd put ads in there, like full page ads of West Coast Auto Trends, you know, we can lower your truck, you know, do these. I found a lot of those articles too, by the way. And it was like, I built these little ads with my friend, you know, trying to get people to come. And that was what really started that momentum of like, I can do wheels and tires, I can do lowering, I can do engine swaps, I can do whatever you guys think of, we can do it here. And I just started building slowly this little clientele of kids around the area, you know, people drove in. And then that's when the relationship happened with a good friend of mine still to date. His name is Clothesman Ron.
Okay.
Clothesman Ron.
That's a good name.
Sold clothes out of the back of his Astro van at clubs around the city.
That's hustle.
And he's like, he's true hustler. He's like, I need my van. I heard you guys are doing air suspension. I want to make my van go up and down. And so he came out. I met him. I built his van out, made the back end look really cool. And then he took that to one of the clubs where Big Dane worked. And he's like, I met this white boy in Laguna Niguel. He like did this to my van. Like, look, we need to build your truck. You need to take your truck there. And he brought Dane all the way from LA to Laguna Niguel to meet me. And he's like, I got this dually truck. Can you airbag it? I'm like, I never airbag. Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
of course I can.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
just the confidence of youth.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just like, I can
whatever.
do this.
Sure.
So that was when the relationship really started with me and him. I built his truck. He came to pick it up. He drove down the street. I thought he was taking it to test drive. He was driving down the street to leave, to not pay me. So he looked in the mirror. I'm standing in the middle of the street watching him drive away, and he saw me in the mirror. He reversed back up, and he's like, don't ever let anybody leave without paying you. I'm like, what was I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, this dude is huge black dude. Like,
We've all seen him. Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
He's like, just don't ever let anybody leave without paying.
Hold the keys until you got the cash.
And I thought, honestly, he was just going to test drive and tell me what he thought of it. And he's like, I was going to leave and not pay you. He's like, but I saw you in the mirror and something made me come back. Ever since then, we've been best friends. So when we became friends at that moment where he realized, like, I can't leave this white boy. He's like, Ryan, you got to get out of this city. You need to move to LA. That's where your clients are.
That's where the culture is, too.
He's like, the culture's there. The clients are there. He's like, I know a shop that I can get, probably it's next door to my friend. I think I can get you in over there. I was like, where is it? He's like, Compton. And I'm like, wait, look, there you go.
You're
Compton.
from a nice neighborhood,
I'm like,
suburban background.
Are you serious? And it was like, I was only in Laguna Niguel probably like 97 is probably when we moved to Compton. Well, during 97, it was
Rodney King,
it was
riots.
pretty muddy.
Yeah.
And I was always protected. I never had no problem when I was in Compton. I moved next door to his friend Korn that did car audio. So it was like I had a car audio component now. I was doing the air suspension and stuff. I met Lorenzo, which still works for me today. He brought his Navigator to me. He's like, I want to put air suspension on it. I did the first Navigator on Air Ride. He took it out. Shaq seen him. And that's the
game changer.
That's what changed the entire game of this business.
How important in any business is that word of mouth?
Word of mouth is everything. I tell everybody that still today. I don't care.
Better than social media.
I don't care about social media. I don't
ads.
care about any of that. It's all with that original street guerrilla marketing of like people that know you, that respect you, they're gonna come to you.
And that would love what you did, and it's something tangible. They can show their friends, check this out. Ryan did it.
It's crazy to realize like Lorenzo is my top sales guy now. He came to me as a client in Compton. I airbagged his Navigator, which got me Shaq, which then got me everything else you see.
How many guys from back then are still with you? Because that says a lot about you.
I mean, I wish they all were.
Of course.
But, you know, everybody always
Like
challenges, you know, gets challenges, and they want to go and try to do their own thing. Some of them come back, some of them don't. Lorenzo's still with me. Dane's obviously still with me. Moscow was one of my first employees when I moved to Compton. He's still with me. He's back there right now working. So there's a few. There's a few, but not a lot, you know. But at the time,
that's pretty good though.
Who knew?
Yeah.
You know, I've had so many people come in and out of my life, and a lot of the times, like, I look back now and I reflect on it, is like a lot of them were almost jealous of my success, but it wasn't about me. Like, this has never been about me. And people get that confused sometimes. Is like, even when we did Pimp My Ride, when you fast forward to that, it's like I wasn't even on camera most of the time.
No,
I didn't.
Not till later.
I didn't even like it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, and I was scared of the camera. I was like nervous. I couldn't do the boardroom thing. So I let Q, which Q was my top salesman back then. But Q's story is like, nobody even knows this, is like, he was my Miller delivery beer guy for my dad's liquor store.
Okay.
He crashed the beer truck, had no job, and he's like, "Can I come work for you?"
Okay.
This is when I was in Laguna Niguel.
Why would you hire this dude who just crashed the
and
truck?
I'm like,
Doesn't
because he
seem
was my
great.
friend, and
Yeah.
he was a hustler, he's from Long Beach, and I'm like, okay, this is cool.
He checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I was like, I felt good. We had a bond, we had a brotherhood, and it was like, he came, and then I met Dane, and we moved to Compton, and he was my guy. Like, he was my salesman, and I was, you know, running the shop with, it was me and 3 other guys. That, like, I was working on the cars with the guys, and it was like, it's crazy to like see this, right? But when Pimp My Ride happened, I was like, yeah, this is a cool idea. Like, we could do it, but I'll put other people in the camera, because you know, I won't lie, I was like nervous to be on camera. I didn't know
I'm a behind the scenes
yeah,
kind of guy.
I'll make sure the jobs get done, because ultimately that's what's gonna make us look the best.
Yep.
I'll let everybody else take the shine, because I didn't care about it. Like, I just cared about continuing the business, growing the business, and being successful with it. It wasn't about the fame. It never was about the fame. It still isn't about the fame.
When you're talking about reflecting, when you look back at your career, was that the most fun and exciting part? I went from this shop to this shop, and I met this guy, and I added this to my business.
It was.
Is it really the ride? It's not the end.
No, it's really the ride, because my goals, like, I don't even, you know, when you set out to do this, like, you set goals, like, I don't even, my goals just continue to keep moving. Like, I never thought I would have a roller coaster. Like, nobody thinks they're gonna, these things, you know, it's like, that wasn't a goal.
Yeah.
It was just like one of those things that was part of this journey. And as I like grew, you know, started in Laguna Niguel, moved to Compton, then moved to Inglewood.
Okay.
Inglewood is where Pimp My Ride started.
Okay.
And then that's where the growth like exploded. Because
Now, Shaq, was he the guy who kind of set all this stuff in motion for you? Was that the first big guy on your side?
he was really the first big client that was a celebrity that allowed me to build ridiculous things that didn't exist.
Now, how does he even find you?
That was how it happened. So he saw the Navigator that Lorenzo's driving.
Okay.
His guy said, he told his guy, find who did that truck. They tracked me down, and they said, we need you to build one of these for Shaq. And it was another Navigator. So I did his Navigator. I revealed it to him. We became friends, and it was like 65 cars later, we still talk. Our kids grew up together. Like,
You've done 65 cars for Shaq?
and he still calls me to this day of like, hey, I found this. We need to build this right now.
What's
I'm
he
like,
into? What kind of cars now?
Now he's into like these cars that look like boats, or these boats that look like cars, I should say.
What do you mean?
He sends me these links. Build me one of these. And it's like a Mustang that you see in the water, like that. It looks like a car, but it's a boat.
Okay.
I'm like, big, we can't, like, I want one of these, but a truck. I'm like, okay.
All right.
You know, but that was always the challenges with him.
How do we get this to float?
How do we do these things? You know, after the Navigator, he got a Bentley Azure. I've never even seen a Bentley Azure, right? And he's like, I got this as a gift from my dad. I can't drive it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, my knee hits the steering wheel and the door panel. Like, I can't fit.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let's move the seat back. I still can't fit. I'm like, okay, well, let's make a new steering wheel, because that steering wheel is too big. So I made him the first Superman steering wheel. It was all billet aluminum. My friend owned a company called Trends Auto Trends, and they built billet grills back then.
Okay.
And I called them up and I was like, hey, can you make me a steering wheel with the Superman emblem in it? They like thought I was crazy, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, but it's for a Bentley Azure. He's like, what? We've never even seen one of those. So it was like, that was one of those challenges, right? It's like, he pushed me. I was able to build it for him. And then that steering wheel is up in my office right now.
Wow.
And it's like, that really started the challenge. Oh, I did that. Ryan could do that. Let's see if he can do this. He buys a Ferrari. He's like, I want to make this Ferrari convertible. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, cut the roof off the Ferrari. I'm like, cut the roof off of a Ferrari?
Yeah.
They didn't have a convertible at the time of that model he had.
So he wanted one.
So we cut the roof off a Ferrari. It's like, these are things that he pushed me. paid me to do the jobs, pushed me, and that's where I got that sense of I can do anything.
Well, come on. At the time, you got one shot.
One shot.
One shot to cut that roof. You can't cut it twice or 3 times if you screw up. So how nervous are you? I know, okay, you're young, you got all the confidence in the world, but come on. There had to be some nervousness.
I mean, I still get nervous.
Of course.
You know, when we take apart these Bugattis and these cars now, it's like, oh my God. But you gotta just, that's what I want to teach these kids is you gotta just do it. You know, it's like you don't, there's not a book to tell you how to do it. You gotta use what you've learned throughout this time here and you just put it to work. And if you f it up, you redo it. You fix it. We have enough stuff now in this shop that we can rebuild anything.
Okay.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and figure it out as we go. And that's always been my model.
Isn't that what being an entrepreneur, a successful one's all about? Figuring things out and having the courage to do it.
To do it and not be scared.
And a lot of people don't have that courage to take the first step because you got to be a little crazy to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not just cut off the roof of the Ferrari, but to think, hey, I'm going to have this crazy shop and we're going to be doing all these cool cars and guess what? People are going to pay me to do this.
Yeah. And I think as I grew, I realized like I need to be able to control everything from start to finish.
What do you mean?
I can't, because, you know, when I started, my shop was small. I'd have to use a paint shop down the street.
Gotcha.
I'd have to use this interior guy next door. When I moved to Compton, I'll use this guy to do my audio. But as I grew, it was like, and I built these relationships with these clients, and a lot of them wealthy clients, they are expecting certain things, and you have to hit those deadlines. And the only way to hit those deadlines is to actually be able to do it under your roof.
In-house.
And that was how I built what you see today. Is as I learned those things, I was like, okay, we need to do this, and we need to have this guy here, and we need to do this, and just really built it to where we didn't have to worry about relying on anybody.
So Pimp My Ride comes along and obviously changes the game. How did MTV even find you or become interested in this idea?
So this is a story that really not a lot of people have heard. You know, it's MTV, first of all, wasn't even involved in the beginning.
Okay.
A producer came to me. His name was Rick Herbitz. He's like, we've been trying to shoot this pilot for this concept of the show we want to do, but we can't find anywhere around town that can do everything under one place. Like, we don't have a big budget, and we don't have a lot of time. I'm like, great. Like, check
no money,
all the wrong boxes, right?
You gotta rush
but I'm
through.
like, okay, well, what is it? He's like, well, we want to do this show, and you know, it's basically like a car makeover show, and you know, it's like taking this old car and making it nice. And it's like, by the looks of what you guys do here, like, you can do everything. You do paint, you do interior, you do audio, you do it all.
Back to having it under one roof.
I'm like, yeah, we do. He's like, so the show, we want to call it Pimp My Ride. And I'm like, nobody's going to buy that show.
Yeah.
Like, nobody could use, back then, the only person using the word pimp was Don Juan. Like, he was the only one getting away with it.
Yeah, and then
so I'm like,
Snoop came along.
There's no way this is going to work. They're like, and we want to see if Shaq would be the host. And I'm like, first of all, you have no money. Shaq, and this time, he was like, prime of his career, right?
Yeah.
There's managers, there's people, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
I was like, but Xhibit, he's my friend, he's at the shop, you know, he hangs out with us a lot, smoking weed in the back with my guys.
Yeah.
Like, he's
good personality,
yeah,
funny.
he's great. They're like, yeah, what has he done lately? And I'm like, they're like, well, we're trying to sell this to MTV. Let us talk to MTV about him being the host. And I'm like, okay. And they come back, they're like, well, he hasn't really done anything lately. Can we talk to Shaq? I'm like, what's the budget? They said $8,000. And not for talent. It was $8,000 to build the car, do the thing, do it all.
What?
And I'm like,
so you literally, you can't be paid anything.
I'm not going to ruin my relationship with him and even bring this to the table, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, let's just shoot this pilot. Let's use Xhibit. He's my friend. He'll do it. Just, if I'm doing it, he'll do it. And they're like, okay. I said, he's funny. Like, I think you guys, it's going to work. And sure enough, we shot that pilot. And it was like, the rest is history.
Yeah. And again, going back to you having the vision, could you see that just from a little pitch from MTV to you, hey, we're going to make old cars look cool?
Yeah, I mean, it was like what I did.
Yeah.
You know, so it aligned with really what the vision was. And
it's on brand for you.
It's on brand. It was like, okay, this is, you know, if this thing takes off, there was no automotive car shows. Nope. There was nothing. There was no overhauling. There was none of these shows that you see today.
How many
didn't
today?
even exist.
How many?
There's probably 50 different shows.
Yep.
Now, you know, and it's like, so this show really paved the way of like, automobile customization is cool and we should film it. Oh wait, it's a reality style show and there's a format for it. And it worked, you know, and it worked to the point, you know, that the thing could have went forever. For me, it was really damaging my brand. It helped
How so?
the beginning. The first 2 seasons were great. Like I got into a groove.
Did you get customers because of that show?
We got a lot of brand awareness.
Okay.
You know, not necessarily a lot of customers, but a lot of, because at that time when I was promoting, Shaq was my guy. I'm building all Shaq's cars. He was the biggest thing in LA. It was like whatever he's doing, we're doing. So my business was really growing off of him, but I couldn't do that business. The situation I dealt with was Pimp My Ride took over my shop. There was no working on other cars. It was quiet on the set. We couldn't have guys working in the background on other stuff when we were building these cars. So it was really, this was the focus. And it was damaging relationships. It was damaging clients that I had that I was supposed to be building cars for. That
You're
I
missing
couldn't do.
deadlines.
I'm missing deadlines. I'm doing everything that I didn't set out to do, right? Like the vision was always to like build everything under one roof, be able to deliver these cars on time, and build this celebrity clientele and these high net worth people that believed in me. And I'm losing that. And it hit me really hard is when I went to the SEMA show in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And
to explain, a lot of people don't know what the SEMA show
SEMA
is.
show is like my Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. So for the automotive customization world, it's like the only show in the world that makes sense. Everybody around the world tries to copy it, but the main show is the SEMA show in Vegas, and it's once a year. And everybody comes to show their best builds, their best products, whatever it is that's relevant to the industry, it's there. So I went there and I'm walking around and, you know, people want to take pictures and people want to do things, but everybody kept saying, could you please not pimp my ride? And I'm like, what is going? And I had to sit back and think about it for a second. It's like, we're building stuff that these producers are telling me like, oh, we should make this pink, or we should put this fish tank in here, or let's do this washer and dryer. And I'm like, okay, so this is really not on brand. It's on brand with being able to be put out into the public in a way where the name is now becoming a household name.
It's a good entertainment for the viewer.
But it was off brand. And that's when I was like, how do I get out of this? You know, and at the time it was like, dude, I didn't have lawyers, I didn't have people. I signed that contract. I don't even know what I signed.
How long was the deal for?
Until it was over.
Oh, and
we're in 4th season, right?
And that's when they say it's over. Could be 10 years from now.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is building my brand, but damaging my brand. And there's really no way out of this. So I made the decision to say, I'm going to move my shop to Corona. Now, creatively in my mind, the reason I said this was because I knew production wouldn't go to Corona, right? So I'm like, this is my out. Now, this was the toughest business decision I've ever had to make still to date in my life, of like, if I do this, I'm going to probably lose workers. I'm going to probably lose friends. I'm going to mess up the relationship with MTV. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But if I want to keep my brand alive, like, they're going to ride this wave because all they care about is ratings and numbers, and they don't care about what I'm trying to build my legacy for the future.
Once your ratings dip, bye,
yeah,
Ryan.
They're like, bye. And then where I'm standing there holding this bag of
and
like,
a damaged brand.
So I made the decision. And everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody around me, everybody.
Of course.
And I said, we're moving to Corona. And they immediately went into like psycho mode of
MTV
pulling my guys into rooms and telling them, Ryan doesn't pay you. Ryan isn't doing this for you. We'll pay you. Stay with us. We're going to finish the show without him. We don't need him. And, you know, I pulled Xhibit. I still remember to this day. I pulled them in the parking lot and I was like, yo, we got to stick together. Like, us together is way stronger. Like, there's something better for us in the future. He's like, nah, I'm staying with the show. And I'm like, I brought you to this table.
Yeah.
Like, this, we're supposed to end together, not like, this shouldn't be. And that was the last time I spoke to him.
So what I was shocked to realize, though, is the show continued on other networks for like till 2017 or 18. Is that correct?
Well,
I thought that was it.
They tried to continue without us.
So you weren't a part of those?
No, I wasn't a part of it. They took it to another shop called Galpin Auto Sports.
Okay.
They continued to finish season 4. They were going to do season 5, and it got killed.
Okay.
For whatever reason, it didn't really work out. I mean, we all know when you build a sequel and you put something out without the same actors, people see right through it. You know, at the end of the day, you can't infuse passion or coolness into something that isn't. You know, Kid Rock told me one time, and it sticks with me still today, is like, Ryan, you have to understand something. You can't buy cool. you are either cool or you're not. And I was like, damn, that's real. And it's like, I don't need to say I'm cool, but I know the things
that makes you immediately not cool when you're
right.
saying like,
I'm like,
hey, I'm the coolest guy in the room.
I just know, I just follow my dreams and I follow my passion.
Which is pretty cool at the end of the day.
And at the end of the day, if that makes me cool and that makes me who I am, that's what I do. And that was a tough challenge when I moved to Corona and left everything that was like, I lost some of my workers. Some of them went, continued to try to do the show without me. And, I went to this foreign territory of Riverside, and I'm like, I don't know anybody out here. I'm in new places, but it helped me really focus back on the brand. And that's when I said to myself, is like, if I'm going to go back on and do a TV show, like, I'm going to do it about me and about what I do. Like, and we're just going to film that. It doesn't have to be some made up producers making people fight and doing all these weird things at the time. Cause then, West Coast Choppers and the Tuttles and all these people start coming into on your TVs and it's
bringing
like,
drama.
And they're bringing drama and they're bringing all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not who we have our own drama, like building cars and people not getting along and projects failing and things like that. That's the drama. Like, we don't need to make it up. We don't need to build stuff that we don't really build. Like, let's just focus on what we did. And that's when I created Street Customs, which was my new spin-off with TLC of a West Coast Customs show, which basically showed what I built and who they were for. And that had a nice little run of 3 seasons. And then I did a show called Street Customs Berlin, where I did a show similar to what I was doing in Corona, but I went to Berlin, Germany. I built a shop there. I brought my workers there, and we built cars for celebrities there. And it was like I did a full season of that. And those are things that while people were so focused on this, like, my brain like goes like, what's the forward looking vision? And it was like, I need to make West Coast Customs in foreign countries. Like, I need to do this. And so that was what
be global.
I started doing it. I did one in Malaysia. I did one in Japan. I did one in Mexico City, Berlin, Russia, like crazy countries. I started visiting crazy countries and people were like, I love you. I love your brand. I love what you do. We want a West Coast Customs. And Dubai was Dubai was my first one I sold because the car culture there is so big.
And there's so much money.
And it ran for 10 years, but the thing we found that failed was a lot of people in these foreign countries don't want to go into these American brand companies and see their people running them. They want to see the West Coast Customs people there. Not people just wearing a West Coast Customs shirt, but actually the brand there. And that was hard. That was a huge learning lesson for me of like, okay, this is a great idea and it works and people want it, but we have to redefine how we do it. And then that's when the Academy really started popping up in my head of like, I got to find a way to build new talent.
I want to talk because the trajectory so far has been this, okay? But no business goes like that forever. And the thing I want to talk about is the other side. The financial crisis hits. I'm guessing people don't have an extra 200 grand they're going to burn on, putting rims and lowering their cars, putting air suspensions in.
What year was that?
I don't know, 2008-ish?
2008-ish, yeah. 2008, 2009.
Did you guys suffer?
Majorly.
How did that go?
I went from the shop in LA, which was about 20,000 square feet, to this massive shop in Corona. Because I'm like, I'm gonna build this factory and it's gonna be this amazing place, literally like what this is here. And it was a lot. It was a huge overhead, and I was good. We were good. We were rolling. Everything was good. But when that hit, like people, just like now with coronavirus, it's like people were like holding on to their money. Like, this isn't something you spend money on when the world's going crazy. So I felt that hard. But what I did was reinvented myself once again.
How?
And I said, let's go to brands. I've never worked with like brands. Like, I'm always working with celebrities and high-end people and people that are passionate about cars. Like, brands need my help.
And they have money.
And they have money and they have marketing budgets and they have this crazy amount of, they don't know what they want. They don't know what's cool. And I could be a teacher to that. So we started, trying to think what the first brand was that I worked with. It might've been Virgin Mobile Gaming or Best Buy, one of the big brands. And it was like, we have this vehicle and we want to make something cool with it. And I would pitch them these ideas and like the whole room would be like silent and they're like looking at me crazy. And then we build it becomes like their best activation. But how I did that was I used my TV component.
Okay.
Because I said, we can do an episode on your build. It becomes a 1 hour episode about your brand. We build a vehicle that you guys can then take out into the marketplace,
Strong.
and then it can continue to live on.
Yeah.
And then that was my selling pitch. But that was I used the knowledge I learned from Pimp My Ride and all that production, and then I started doing my own show, Street Customs, and I was like, okay, this is going on. Let's try to get some brands and sell them on this, and it worked. I remember I met with what is it? The Cracker Jack brand. They came out with Jack.
Like the little Cracker Jack, you get baseball games with.
And they're like, we have this RV, and we're launching this new brand, and we wanna like promote the brand. What would you do with this RV? I'm like, okay, let's build a life-size dunk tank in it. Let's have hot chicks on top of this dunk tank, and guys take your product. We make them look like beanbags, but it looks like the product, and you throw it at this target, and you knock the girl in, and you have like cameras in there so they can see the TVs of them in the water, right? I'm like, this will work. And dude, I swear to you, they thought I was an alien when I was talking. We built it, and they called me like probably a few months later and said, this was the best activation vehicle we've ever built. There's lines for this vehicle. I'm like, cool, thank you, I'm Ryan, I'll be here all day.
So, how quickly did, sales went, you go, probably panic mode as a business owner. I'm gonna have to lay some people off. I'm gonna have to cut expenses immediately. I'm gonna have to do all this stuff. How quickly did it go from that to, hey, we got a new business, making up for it, maybe even doing better?
Probably I'd say 6 to 8 months.
That's a pretty quick turnaround.
I mean, I didn't have time. You know, like the story continues of like, I don't have a rich family. I don't have a financial backer. I don't have bank lines of credit. Like this is all me. And I built this all off of this little bit of money that I started with and grew it, but I kept putting it into the business to grow it. So it was like I had there was no plan B. There was no plan B. It was like you have to figure it out. And that's always what I've done in my entire journey with this brand is like I have to figure it out. Nobody's gonna figure it out for me. As much as I get older and I'm like, okay, this person can do this and this person can do that, it still goes back to like I have to do it. And I have to guide them on what I envision this needs to be.
Sure, you're the guy with the vision.
It just is always recreating myself, you know, recreating this brand.
I think that's, I mean, just hearing your story now, everybody's got a superpower, right? You can do a lot of cool things, right? And you've got skill sets in a lot of places. But it seems like the ability to figure things out now, whether it's, how am I going to make this Ferrari convertible, to sales are down 80%. I got bills to pay. Where am I going to make this business up? Because it's not going to come from those rich customers because they're not spending money. I got to get some other revenue stream in here. Do you think that's what it's all about?
It's the hustle inside me, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that determination to not fail. And I think that's my superpower. Is like I get kicked in the face all day long still. And it's like there's days I really don't want to come here. But I get up and I do it and I push through, and it's like that's why I do it.
Because, to solve problems?
Yeah, to solve problems. Like I solve problems and want to help people. You know, and I'm driving to work and I'm thinking to myself is like people spend their entire life trying to find their purpose. This school and this vision that I have now moving forward, that's my purpose. For me, it's like I really enjoy helping people and like seeing that. Because maybe it's because like all these lessons I've learned, like nobody like helped me with them. I just had to push through and figure it out. There wasn't anybody telling me don't do this and don't do, you know, Jesse James is a perfect example. Like he was somebody I looked up to my entire career, and I would always go to him of like, hey, I wanna do this. What should I do? And he like would never give me that mentorship that I was looking for. He would just, you know, kind of brush me away. And I look back now and it's like he's doing his thing and he's doing great. But I look at it as like almost like people didn't want me to succeed.
It's all that thinking is fear-based. Why would I tell him the secret to my business in case he blows up and takes something from me? So I think that's why a lot of people guard those secrets. And it sucks because I'm completely opposite. I tell everybody everything. I tell too much stuff to people because I think that they're going to treat me a different way. 100%. And they end up taking that and just using it against me. And that's what drives me to just be stronger and harder and fight every day even more because I'm like, okay, that's who you are. That's who you are. And that's why these kids, bringing them in, and you know, I didn't talk about the other piece of it is like I really feel like our military is in need
of this type of program of like teaching this skill set, because these guys and women come back with this amazing like talent, but they don't know what to do with it once they get reintroduced into the world. And it's like this academy could be a platform for them. Of a lot of these guys and girls are welders and mechanics and things that they come back, they're like, what am I supposed to, I don't even know what to do. And it's like having an academy like that to put them into a seat where they could work in this industry. It's like this industry pays really well, you know,
and people don't realize that. How much, okay, let's dollars to donuts, right? What is a good body guy making, or a good painter making?
Over $100,000.
Yep.
And it's like people go to college half their life to make that.
100%.
You know, and I'm like,
it's a lot of money.
They do not know, like, this isn't a talent. This is a talent that's needed and is paid really well. Like fabricators, like these things that are, it's artists, right? I look back at my shop and everything we build is a piece of art, and everybody that builds it is an artist in their own way, you know. And that's why I created the shop the way it is, where they have their own areas and they get to create in their space and be themselves. And that's what people like. That's a great thing, but you also can make a lot of money at it. Like, and it's crazy that it's being overlooked, you know.
What other career? I can't think of a lot of them. Maybe HVAC guys, but even that job, those jobs are looked down on. But without a college degree, to be able to go make 6 figures, there's not a lot of paths to get there, and this is a great one.
It's a great path, and like, I don't, not to pat myself on the back, but I don't have a high school diploma. You know, and it's like these kids that are not as fortunate as some of these kids that get to go to college and get to do, like, this is a career they could get into and make a lot of money as long as they have the passion.
So the goal for these things are always to get some inspiration from the guests and your kind of rise to success, but it's also to get, because the viewer most of the time is a young aspiring entrepreneur or one who just got started, right? And real tangible things to help them. So my first question is, what advice do you have for that 17, 18-year-old kid, and I was this kid, who wants to get into something, get started in a business somehow, but isn't kind of sure what the next step is? Like, do you have any advice for them on how to get started?
I mean, you gotta follow your passion and your dream, you know? But you have to know what that is. You have to figure out what that passion or what that dream is, and you just push forward, no matter how many people tell you it's not gonna work. You know, I tell people the story about my dad. Used to tell me all the time, you're never going to get anywhere wearing your pants like that or driving these trucks and listening to that music. And it's like, now I pay his bills.
And so, that's your career.
Yeah.
Multi-million-dollar business around just that.
And it's, that's what I loved, and that's what I pushed forward on. And it's like, it's really important to just never give up.
Do you have to have the passion, but also be realistic? Like, I could love this very specific thing doing it, but that's a hobby. That ain't never going to be a business. Or should you try to figure out how it can be a business?
Yeah, I think you figure out how to make it a business. I mean,
whatever your passion
today
is.
Of all these crazy businesses that we would have never thought would be a business are businesses. So it's like, I don't think any great idea is a bad idea. It's like that you can, if you believe in it, you can get it done.
And you can reinvent yourself at any time.
I've done it at least 10 times.
Now, what's the worst piece of business advice you got, or the thing that people told you over and over again? You go, I know that's not true. That's not good advice. Anything stick out?
I mean, not really, because this journey has been pretty solo, you know, and it's been the worst piece of advice I probably ever got was not getting enough. You know, not having someone to like really guide me, you know. And I think I could have been, everybody looks at me and be in a great position right now, but it's like, I feel like I could have been in a lot better position if I was more of a businessman than a creator or a visionary creative person. You know, it's like, you always need a good business person behind you. And for me, it's like, I've always run, and I still try to run this business like it's a family business, because that's just what I know. Like, I don't understand all this corporate thing and these numbers and all these, that's not what I know. So I have to have people around me now that understand that piece of the business, so I can really focus on what I'm good at. So it's really about your team, you know. I think it's having the proper team around you, because your vision can be great, but if you don't have the team around you to help it stay together, then it falls apart pretty quick.
Yep. And do you have to be self-aware and know what you're good at and not? Because I've found it's very, very rare for somebody to have that creative gene in whatever field they're in, but also have that CEO hat too, to be able to go, that's a bad expense, it's a good idea, but it's never going to pay off, it's a waste of money.
That's my biggest.
Is that your biggest weakness?
Yeah.
So what do? You just get people in who are good at that.
Yeah, and I try to listen to them, and I don't, and I fail. But it's okay, because if you don't fail, I'm the first to always say I'm not good at everything at all. Like I learned that I'm not good. I'm good at certain things, and I have to let other people do the other things that I'm not good at anymore. It's nice to have good people around me now, like Musa, my artist, that I would have these visions in my head. I'd never be able to put them on paper. Now I'm able to sit with him, tell him what I want.
I saw you do that last time I was here.
Yeah, and it's like that helps me be able to deliver a product, not only to my guys on the floor so they know what they're building, but also to the client to sign off on. And it changes the whole way of business.
Yep.
But without a good team, like, you just have a great vision.
Yep. If you can't execute it, what good's having the vision?
Yeah, you gotta have a team to execute it.
Yeah. So I want to hit the academy one more time. So what's the vision? Where do you see this thing going?
So right now it's in its incubator stage right now, right? So we're doing a pilot program. It's an 8-week, really hands-on program, getting it figured out, right? I want to roll this out into a full year-long school program, hopefully in the spring of next year, where I can take on 50 to 100 kids and really build it into the school that I want it to be. But I wanted to start small, so I teamed up with Burbank Unified School District.
Oh, wow.
They signed off on it, gave me the accreditation I needed, gave me the support, and also the students. So we pulled local students from the Burbank area, kids that just graduated from high school, and that's who we brought in to do this program. And honestly, it's going way better than expected. Like anything, you have your hiccups and things, but it's like this has been so smooth, and so it makes me happy again. I feel like I'm happy seeing these kids and helping these kids, and they're building my first truck, and it's like the vision's coming together. So I'm really excited. I think in the next couple months we're going to launch a full PR plan on the school, what's going to happen, where you can sign up and everything. But I want to make sure it's right before I do it, because ultimately this is my legacy. This is the next chapter in my book. I mean, during this program, every day I'm learning, right? And as I see the kids' passion and the happiness that they're doing, they sprayed primer last week. It was like I sat them all down, and I told them how proud I was, and I said, look, if we finish this truck on time, I'm going to take you guys and the truck to SEMA to experience what I've experienced the last 20 years going to SEMA, and all the people and all the great builds that are there. But I'm going to put your guys' build there, and I'm going to have you guys there talking about how great this is and how this journey was. And we're going to really push the academy to other kids to be a part of this.
Wow.
And I think that, like, none of them have been to SEMA. They all know about SEMA.
Course.
And they were just like, their mouths, like, in that room, I was like, I have it on camera too. They were just like, really? I'm like, you got to make the deadline though.
Yep.
So I gave them an extra little push,
Yeah.
of like, this truck is obviously important. There's a message that we're putting out here to the public, but at the same time, like, I want you guys to look forward to something that if you push this thing to the finish line, we're going to SEMA.
And it's a valuable lesson for them too. Hit your deadline.
Hit your deadline. That's what I told them.
Yeah.
I say, because first and foremost, you work together as a team. You know what the goal is. You got to hit that goal.
Yep. One more thing too that you just got me thinking. So the kid in Ohio who's watching this, who's inspired by your story, who's passionate about cars, wants to get involved, doesn't live in Burbank, probably can't get in this program because they're not here. What do they do in their town and the state they're in to start their journey like you did?
I think, find a local shop that they can be an apprentice at, and go in and just give their time to learn. Because I think that's what really hits home, is when you go into a business like this and you're like, I'm passionate about cars. I love cars. I want to learn how to do it. I'll come and I'll give you my time and I'll work for you. And you do that. And I think, it shows somebody, whoever that person is like, oh, this kid's, got some passion. Let me bring him in. You bring him in, and then they end up paying you, and you start working underneath them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, I want to see this program go all over the world, like, not just the country, but the world. And I want to have West Coast Customs Academies everywhere where kids can be a part of it,
I think that's a great legacy. I think it's a great thing to end on. You know, it was really a pleasure sitting down with you.
Thank you.
It was great being at the shop. Again, I want a little tour again, the behind the scenes stuff, which we'll do. And guys, make sure you subscribe. We do new interviews every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world from all walks of life. Some past guests have been Paris Hilton. We had John Barbados talking about how to build a clothing brand. Ryan taught you about the automotive business. So you're going to learn a little something every week. Get some inspiration, also get some real business tips you can apply to your life. So thanks for watching, guys.